Going solar in 2026 is one of the most unique times to do so since 2005, when the federal tax credit was first established. Starting at January 1st of this year, we no longer had the 25D tax credit for owned residential systems. And that's left a lot of people wondering, how do you go solar in 2026, and what is the best way to do so? Well, the options are still there, as well as a few new twists on a couple of old options, but the math looks a little bit different. So keep watching because we're going to go through the key ways to go solar in 2026 and the pros and cons for each. So in this year and in all previous years, honestly, there are two key ways that you can go solar. Either you can own it or somebody else can own it. But that further subdivides into a couple of different key categories and options. Really, mainly, there's three of them today. So let's talk option one. Option one is has been the gold standard and likely honestly will continue to be the gold standard. That's ownership. You buy it, you own it from day one. This is giving you your highest ROIs, and it's the most simple, straightforward way. Now, this further subdivides into two really key ways to buy it and own it. Either you have cash on hand, you pay cash for it, you write a check, straight, easy, no problem. But not everybody has cash sitting around, especially in today's economy. So the other option, you can finance it. Now, the vast majority of solar providers work with fintech companies that specialize in solar financing. So they can give you your solar contract and your financing all in one go. Those will have special terms, sometimes like 18 months of a deferred payment or a lower payment than reinvestment, all kinds of unique ways to get about it. But there's also the local options. People take home equity lines of credit. They go to their own local bank, their credit union, and get out a loan to go solar. Owning solar has always been a really good option because there are a lot of great pros that come along with it. Of course, number one is you directly own it from day one. You bought it, you financed it, you paid cash for it. It is yours. You completely own that asset. There's not any kind of third party involved, no liens on your home, anything like that. Also, when you purchase it, you're going to get a high ROI and high savings because there's not some other third party you're paying monthly payments to. Your savings are just 100%. As much as you can offset of your bill is what you are saving directly. And that leads to some really great ROIs as time goes on, especially as energy rates get more expensive. Third option here is really one that we've seen in some research is that your home value increases. We've done some research into home values with and without solar. I'll link that video above so you can watch it. But what we actually found is that homes with owned solar systems specifically, we'll talk more about that in a minute, have a value increase when they install solar anywhere from 5 to 10% depending on the region. You get that by installing solar on your house. And then, of course, lastly, local incentives. So when you own it, while there isn't any federal tax credit you can take, if your state or your municipality, your town, whatever, does happen to offer their own incentives because you own that system, you're able to take those and offset your costs. Now, of course, there are some downsides of going solar and owning it yourself. Obviously, there's a high upfront cash outlay or the need to secure financing, right? You have to write that money out of your account or you have to go and get financing if the provider you're working with doesn't work with the fintech company, or even if they do, you have to go through the whole credit check and all of that. Speaking of financing, financing also typically comes with interest rates and dealer fees and things that increase the costs and decrease the amount of savings that you're going to get. Also, maintenance is on this list because although you do have your workmanship warranties from your provider and any manufacturer warranties from the manufacturers, the equipment, those don't typically cover labor. So unless you are working with somebody who gives you an independent warranty, like Solar Insure, who's going to cover the labor for you, you're likely going to be on the hook for paying those maintenance costs, at least for a portion of the time that you own the system. Additionally, here, we've talked about this, there's no tax credit available. Unlike some of the other options we'll talk about in a second, there's no federal tax credit to decrease this via your taxes right now. Despite all of that, though, ownership does still make a lot of financial sense for a ton of homeowners, especially if you happen to live in a state that has its own strong solar incentive policies locally. We did a previous study where we looked at actually what the impacts of losing the federal tax credit would be to solar and battery systems. I'll link that video above for you and put the link in the video description. But essentially what we found out is that at average electric rates and average prices throughout the country, losing the federal tax credit only pushes ROIs on solar systems back about 3 to 5 years. So well within an acceptable window for a 30-year asset. The second option, also a very common and widely used option, are leases and PPAs. These are traditional third-party ownership. These are the cases where a third party actually owns the system that's up on top of your roof and they charge you a monthly payment. So rather than you paying a huge cash outlay right at the front end, you just pay a simple monthly amount that's typically discounted because they are passing along federal tax credit savings to you. So a lot of people will come in, they'll try to sell these as basically a bill swap where you're going to be paying a little bit less than your average electric bills, and now you're going solar, and that rate is a little bit more fixed. But there are some nuances to that. Going solar with a third party can actually have a lot of great benefits to you as a homeowner. Number one, there's little to no upfront cost. Of course, because somebody else owns it, they're going to come in, pay for the whole thing, and you just sign the dotted line and just have to pay a regular monthly payment for typically a 20 to 25-year term that you're signing on for. Speaking of that monthly payment, that brings us to point number two, and that's that monthly payment is actually lower because they're passing along federal tax credit savings to you. Because they're a commercial entity, they still qualify for the 48E tax credit, which is available until 2028. So those monthly payments can actually be lower than your average electric bills. We'll talk a little bit more about that though when we hit to the cons. And the last one here is maintenance is covered. Typically under third-party ownership agreements like leases and PPAs, the company who owns it are the ones who take care of any of the maintenance for the system. So if it's down, you talk to them, they'll come out and they'll fix whatever the issues are. And typically, you're not going to pay anything for that. Now, there are some good things about going solar through a third party. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Now, there are a couple of cons we should talk about. Number one is price escalators. Almost every TPO contract is going to have a price escalator involved, which means that the annual payments will increase by a set percentage at the very beginning. And the way that companies sell this to you is they say, hey, we're going to only set your escalator at 1.99%, for example. And the utility typically goes up anywhere from 5 to 10%. If that holds true, great, not an issue. But that's not always the case. So then there are cases out there where people have ended up paying more for their lease of their PPA than they actually would have been paying if they didn't have solar at all, just in the utility. Now, number two here is that there is typically no path to ownership through traditional PPAs. It's the other company owns it for the entirety of the term, and when that term is done, they'll come and either rip it off of your house for you, or you can maybe buy it out in some cases, but it's pretty rare to get there. That also leads a little bit into the impact on the home value. So while our research did show that home values had increased anywhere from about 5 to 10% for owned systems, that same research actually showed that there really is no effect on home value for lease systems. In fact, that leads to the next point. It actually leads to a little bit more complex selling of your home because there's extra contracts involved, there's transfer windows, there's a lot more that's going on there. Typically, when you have a leased or a PPA type system on your home, it's not going to get you any more value if you go to sell, and it's going to make things slightly more complex to start out. And the last one is the risk. Now, of course, there's risk with any way you can go solar, anytime you're working with a contractor. But in the last few years, we've seen a number of really large PPA or lease provider, TPO providers, go out of business. And that leaves a lot of homeowners who went that way thinking they were going to have all their maintenance covered, maybe even production guarantees, kind of left out to dry. At the end of the day, it's a low barrier to enter. That's really the mass appeal of traditional leases and PPAs. There's not a whole lot of financial commitment here, and you're really just purely saving money. For homeowners who maybe can't take out financing or don't have cash available for it, or maybe just don't even want to own their system as a whole, maybe you're planning on staying in your house forever, this can be a really legitimate option. But there are some of those long-term trade-offs that if those don't apply to you, you may want to deserve an extra hard look before you're signing any dotted lines. And the last option is one that's been getting a lot of steam the last couple of months, and that's prepaids. Prepaid leases and prepaid PPAs. Now, technically, this isn't brand new. Prepaids did exist, but with the loss of 25D, prepaids went through kind of an evolution to where they are actually at today. So functionally, they're pretty much the same as traditional leases and PPAs, where a third party owns the system. They're able to take advantage of the tax benefits because they're a larger corporate entity. They pass along those tax savings to you, the homeowner, and your solar provider is just there to install the system. However, with prepaids, instead of paying a regular monthly payment, you're actually prepaying, so you're paying all upfront the cost of the lease term or the PPA term. Additionally, prepaids typically have a path to ownership. So usually after about 5 to 6 years, homeowners can transfer that ownership of the system back to themselves. This comes with a couple of unique trade-offs and pros and cons. We had a couple of videos recently talking about prepaids and why they're exploding in the market so much. I'll link those above in the video description as well. You can read those. But essentially, here's what it boils down to. Number one, it's a really big pro that you get a lower upfront cost, right? Because that third-party entity that owns the system can take advantage of the tax credits, they pass that along to you in your payment. So compared to cash, you actually typically will spend less on that total upfront outlay. As far as maintenance goes, in these cases, some of that maintenance is typically covered. Now, this varies from provider to provider for prepaid, but typically during the time that that third party organization owns the system for you, which is usually about 5 to 6 years, they would be the ones who are in charge of maintenance. Once that ownership transfers to you, which there you see, number three, there's a clear path to ownership. You do then take over maintenance and you have the warranties that maybe a provider would give you or from the manufacturers. But that's also a great point is that you do get a clear path to ownership. So if you're somebody who does want to own the asset, if you are going to sell your house, you want to take advantage of that increased home value, you can transfer ownership to yourself. Now the cons here get a little bit of a mix from both traditional ownership and the traditional leases and PPA options. Number one, of course, is there still is a upfront payment, right? Because you're prepaying everything, you have to come up with either cash or you have to secure financing. Financing, as we talked about, comes with financing dealer fees and interest rates that increase your costs and decrease your savings. There's typically also no local incentives when it comes to this one. This isn't talked about very much, but because another organization is going to own the system before you do, they would be the ones that would be able to take direct cash rebate type incentives like SREX or something like that. Now, property tax benefits, net metering, that kind of stuff you can still take advantage of being on your house, but any of those direct cash outlays are typically going to be them instead of you. Maintenance is actually one that shows up on pros and cons here, because as we discussed, once that ownership transfers over to you, the homeowner, maintenance is now going to fall under your purview. So while you do have warranties from your provider and from the manufacturers covering equipment, both of those typically don't cover labor costs. So unless you have an independent warranty like Solar Insure that covers the labor costs on your systems, you're going to be on the hook for those. And this last one is pricing transparency. Now, this is a bit of a unique case because there's a lot of companies out there that are very transparent and doing things the right way as they should be. But in any situation where costs are and savings are passed on to consumers, the concern is that the prices could be inflated on the front end. So you're not actually getting as much of a deal as you think you can. So really got to make sure that you are very transparent with your provider and they're working with you so that you know exactly how much credit's being passed on. It's a good idea just to get multiple quotes so you can really check out and see what's going to be the best option for you. Prepaids have been exploding in popularity in 2026, largely because of the tax credit option. They have a lot of great potential benefits, but there's also some things you really need to make sure that you're considering very strongly. So what is the best way to go solar in 2026? Well, the honest answer for you is that there is no universal one right answer. Every option has its pros and its cons, and really it depends on your specific situation, what your financials look like, how long you're going to stay in your home, and what local incentives you have available to offset your costs. But while the options have changed, the core value of solar has not. Rising utility prices are really going to continue to affect homes and businesses throughout the country in the coming years. And as those rising costs continue, the value behind having solar in your home gets greater and greater and greater. So the best thing you can do is get a lot of quotes, ask the hard questions, and really read the fine print because the options are more nuanced than ever in 2026. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you learned something from this video. Check out the video description for other videos that I mentioned that will link that you can read some additional information. We also have a link to our article for our full breakdown of the ways to go solar. If you like this channel, make sure you like the channel, subscribe, and check out some of our other videos that cover a bunch of different topics along solar, honest energy breakdowns, and everything in between. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.